Assalamu alaikum salam. My name is John Fontain and welcome back to another episode of the Fiqh of Love. We're here joined today with us by the pool, I should say, with Dr. Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, John?
Alhamdulillah.
Good. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh.
Good,
Subhanallah. It's been a very exciting few episodes. Subhanallah. In the last episode, we were speaking about who it is permissible to marry and not permissible to marry.
Yeah, and
We
the
also-
preventions.
Pardon?
And the preventions.
Yeah, of course, the preventions as
Yeah.
well of, who you wouldn't be able to marry. But also today, I wanted to ask you, because we touched upon it towards the last part of the last episode, which was we were speaking about the Wali, the guardian in particular. And I wanted to ask you some of the wisdoms behind having a guardian. And
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyi Mustafa wa ba'd. I think you would agree with me, as well as the viewers will find out, that by nature, women are more emotional than men. Correct?
no comment.
Correct or no comment?
No comment.
So they are the sweet part.
Yeah.
So basically, when a man wants to get married, he's considering a lot of things, especially in Islam, because he's the one who's shouldering all the financial responsibility, the dowry, the house, the maintenance, supporting the family financially, and all of that. A woman is not actually required to do any of the above. So his considerations, not only because she is pretty, or because she is young, or because he likes her. There are many things that will go in the mind of the person before actually taking the serious step and proposing to her guardian or asking for her hand. While by nature, again, if a woman sees a nice man who's speaking very sweet to her and he's promising a lot of things, even if they're not true, she would fall in love with him, most likely. So that's why there comes the role of the guardian in order to step in and to be free from the emotional part that the woman is experiencing and to do his homework, investigating, searching the background of the person and of the family. He's the one who's going to jump around and go to the neighborhood, go to his work and inquire about him, find out from his own sources about the true nature of this person, who's going to be his son-in-law, who's going to marry his daughter or the girl under his guardianship. It's a big responsibility. So simply it's an advantage for women. She doesn't have to worry about that part. It is the responsibility of the ra'i. It is the responsibility of the wali or the guardian.
It's interesting. It's important that we see it in that way, that it's actually a privilege of a woman, to have a guardian, the father who loves her, he has more experience, he's a lot older, he's experienced many more things in life. He can kind of weigh up who a man is just by looking at him almost.
I have a friend of mine who owns a company, and one of his employees, he hooked up with his girl, with his daughter, and he showed her, very nice face. And he made some remarks how much he appreciates her, how much he likes her, and she's the most beautiful woman on earth. And the girl fell in love with him accordingly because he's sweet to her. Okay? The father was talking to me that I don't feel good about this guy. He said, look, Muhammad, I don't mind giving my daughter off in marriage to somebody who's poor. But my instinct, I feel that this guy isn't the right person and he's bluffing. So subhanallah, he caught him on camera stealing.
Subhanallah.
Otherwise there was no way to convince his daughter that this guy is after your money, after your dad's
Subhanallah.
money. Is not after you.
Subhanallah.
Okay, so this is one incident. So the guy would set aside the emotions, and also it's not only before the wedding, also, during the process of the wedding, a person may convince his future wife or the bride, since I don't have the money now, I promise you once I have the money, I will pay you the dowry. I will take you to Spain and I will take you to Niagara Falls and. Hey, Habibi, we need to record that in writing. Who would dare to secure those rights other than the guardian? So how much can you afford to pay now? That much. And the deferred amount, write down a check because it's going to be a debt. Okay? And this money will go to the bride, not to her father, nor to the husband. That will become her position. This is just one thing. Many other commitments, the stipulation of the conditions, which we spoke about it before. Okay? Whether she needs to continue her education, whether she's going to be working or not. All of that. Who's going to secure those rights? If that woman fell in love with the guy and he says everything, yes, okay, no problem, whatever you want to, then after they get married, he locks her in. And everything evaporates, all the conditions, all the... Khalas, you're stuck
like
with
you
him.
said, you mentioned this a few episodes back where, when someone has that true, deep love, they're blinded and they're deaf. And
you are me,
and
your son.
Yeah, and the man or the guardian, he can look at it from an outside perspective. He can analyze it from a logical perspective.
He definitely does. He definitely
and look
does.
out for his
and
daughter.
His role is not over by handing over the bride or his daughter or his sister to the groom and say, enjoy it.
Now we did start to touch upon this in the last episode, but we didn't get a chance to finish it. But sometimes the guardian can be stubborn.
Yeah.
And as much as they may love their daughter, etc., sometimes they're overprotective, and there's no one good enough for their daughter. So what can a woman do in this situation when her guardian is being overprotective and literally they've turned down 3 or 4 or 5 proposals?
Sure. This concept is called adl. I would be more than happy to address it, but before I get into it, I'd like to bring to your attention that the role of the guardian is not over once he hands over the girl under his guardianship to her husband, and that's it, and they close the door and it's over. Throughout their marriage life, there are ups and downs, especially in the first month and the whole year, as a matter of fact, but most specifically in the first month, because two people never been together before. They meet, they have different habits, different practices, different traditions, so they will have a lot of problems. So because the woman is by nature more emotional, so she may demand divorce. She may call her dad and mom say, come and pick me up, I cannot live with him. The wisdom of the guardian, I was talking about a wise guardian, he's going to handle the situation wisely. A foolish one or somebody who's not responsible will say, you don't know who is she and whose daughter is she. Or if it is the mother who's handling the case, she would ask her daughter to come home immediately or go and pick her up. And they will even be the husband and things of this nature. But we're talking about a wali with certain criterions, with certain qualities. He's a wise man, he's grown up, that's why he must be adult, not a child, not somebody under the age of puberty, somebody with experience. So now to come to your question about al-adl, you're saying such sweet things about the guardian and his responsibilities, and that's why Allah appointed him as in a charge for the family and on those who are under his guardianship. But what if he's not up to the responsibility? And that happens a lot. Somebody who doesn't want to give his daughter in marriage to somebody who is religious. Why? Because he himself is not religious. He drinks. He doesn't pray. And mashallah, John is wearing beard, and he's a person who prays on a regular basis, and he goes and he proposes to his daughter. So he says, we don't have any women for marriage, get out. Why? He didn't even consult his daughter. Why? Because he doesn't want anyone religious in the house. That is called adl. He's preventing his daughter from marrying the right person. Or who could be the right person? Does it mean that Allah the Almighty gave him the right to be a dictator? Of course not. No one can say that. The Almighty Allah is the most fair. He's al-adl. So what is it? If a person abuses his role, he loses it.
Okay.
If the guardian misuses the power of authority that Allah gave him, then he loses it. Yani,
So who gets that responsibility after that?
the guardian's in order is the father of the woman.
Mm.
And if he's not there, does she have a grandfather? Then he's number 2 in order.
Mm.
Well, father and grandfather are dead, or they're non-Muslims. So the son, women who are married, their son, and then their sons grow up. And now she's a widow or divorced and she wants to get married. Her son can give her in marriage as a wali.
So it's also always the male guardian. Because
of course,
what we
the
find,
hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, لا تزوج المرأة نفسها ولا تزوج المرأة المرأة. A woman should not give herself up in marriage, nor should she give another woman in marriage.
See, this is important because I've actually witnessed this a lot, especially in the West, where maybe the father has passed away or the mother has divorced the father, so the guardian is not around, and then the mother of the bride will step in to be the guardian. Is this permissible?
No, there is an order, and no one can escape it, even if the couple are separated. Not because they're separated, the mother would just skip the order and would give her daughter in marriage, or even ask her brother, who will be the girl's maternal uncle, to give her in marriage. No, the father is there, and he fulfilled the condition. He is a Muslim, wise, practicing person. Alhamdulillah. And he is not mu'dal. Some people just say no for the sake of saying no. They want to hurt, because they're separated. Okay, I'm not giving your daughter in marriage. She's also your daughter. Are you out of your mind? But stubbornness. So if the person is abusing this power of authority, it will be withdrawn from him to be given to the next in order. Then the brother. Okay? If we don't have any of those, any of the above, then we look for the judge, we look for the governor, we look for the imam of the masjid if we live in a non-Muslim community, so the imam of the Islamic center can play that role.
Jazakallah khair. We're just going to take a short break, and I want to revisit that point after the break, inshallah. Stay tuned, and we'll be back straight after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum salah. Welcome back to the Fiqh of Love. My name is John Fontain, and we're here with Dr. Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, we've been discussing the role of the guardian, and also, subhanAllah, when the guardian is, we were just mentioning just before the break, because sometimes it's quite common, especially what I've witnessed in the West, where sometimes there's no reason for the guardian not to accept or even entertain a proposal. So I just want to revisit that. And as I said, what you mentioned that if he doesn't,
fulfill his duty,
if he doesn't fulfill it, then it would actually.
He doesn't shoulder his responsibilities. Then we'll skip him to the next in order. If there is no next in order, of the whole family is messed up, that happens. Especially in the West, you can find things of that nature.
So then
the father says no, and the brother says no, and the son says no. Why? Because they don't want this guy, because he looks religious.
So then you mentioned that you'd now start to look for a judge, or if he was in the West, you'd look for the local imam maybe, or someone trustworthy.
This is what the right order of fiqh says. So al-qadi al-Muslim, the Muslim judge. We don't have a Muslim judge. You cannot just go to the court and say, Your Honor, I want you to give me off in marriage to. He doesn't have time for that. So if we have in the Muslim community the imam who is really up to the responsibility of not just leading the prayer and giving some talks here and there, but also looking after the entire community. So a girl can go to him and say, Sheikh or Sheikh, I like this guy, but I don't know how to tell him. It will be so beautiful for the imam to feel that he's like a father for the community. So he would communicate on her behalf to that person, and would also do his homework as a guardian to investigate and look for the background of of that person to decide whether he's fit or not. The father is running a gas station, is selling liquor and beer, and anyone who comes to him, he doesn't want anyone to tell him that halal and haram. You're gonna give me headache. So that's why anyone who's good proposes to his daughter, said no, 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 and kick them out before they would even step in. I have seen things like that. So what about the imam? He's authoritative. He's been given this authority. You know what? I have many sisters, reverts, who have been my students for a while, and then they asked me to be their guardian. And I only have one condition. Number one, because they don't have a Muslim family member to look after them. And one of the conditions of the guardianship is Islam. Okay? Allah says, وَلَا يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ سَبِيلًا.
See, this, I wanted to ask you about this, subhanAllah, because there's many reverts to Islam, sisters, and they have like Christian fathers or atheist fathers.
We said before, the guardian is supposed to look for the best interest of the girl who's under his guardianship. So do you think that a non-Muslim guardian would like John to marry his daughter, or to like a person who is Muslim and practicing Muslim to marry his daughter? He
maybe someone like me.
He would. We need a person who would look for the best interest of the girl or the woman. So I
Islamic
have a condition
belief.
Whenever some sister asks me for that, I say, on one condition, I have to function as a full guardian. So if you find a guy whom you want to marry, and I try to check out his background, and I find that he's not fit, even if you like him, I would say no. Not adl, but because before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you laid a huge responsibility on my shoulders. For instance, once one of my students wanted to marry a guy whom she got to know online, and she said he's a practicing Muslim and so on, and she's a revert. So when he came to meet me, and that was in the UK, I asked him, what does he do for a living? He said nothing. It doesn't work. Then I asked him, why not? What kind of degree do you have? He didn't even finish his high school diploma. So how do you live? He said, my family support me. And you know how it is in the UK, a lot of people live on welfare and so on. The girl is working, the girl is learning. She has achieved a lot in respect of reading Quran, learning the Deen, studying Arabic, and she's working and supporting herself, all by herself. So I said, and who's going to support the other? Akhi, you know what he said? He said, well, Allah will provide for us.
Sheikh, you said that a few episodes back. You said that it will increase your risk, right?
Yeah, Allah will increase your risk when you're hard working, when you're serious. But when you're 30, 32, 35, never taken a job in your life, when are you going to start working? When you're enjoying the free ride, just staying at home. You've already reached half of your age, supposedly. You've never taken a job. You did not wash dishes. You did not drive a cab. You did not work in the construction. I mean, if you're not a doctor, if you're not a dentist, if you're not a teacher, then you got to do something else. You be a handyman. You know, when you're showing interest, when you're making an effort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find a way for you. But when you are lazy and lousy, well, I don't think I would be happy to give you my daughter in marriage, because you're not really making, you're going to be a liability. So I used to feed my daughter, and now I have to feed you as well. You know, you have no source of income. You never had a source of income. When are you planning to work? He said, Allah will provide for us. Well, even though the statement itself is correct, Allah provides for everyone. Allah huwa ar-razzaqu dhul quwwati al-mateen. But the context was not the right context. I'm asking you a legitimate question. How are you going to provide for my daughter?
This is very common in the UK, where people are living on benefits or off benefits, I should say. You know, they rely on that.
In every meeting I have with the youth, whether in UK or in the countries where they live on benefits, I urge them to go out to work, to continue their education, to get a degree, to desire to be doctors and engineers and lawyers, and to have a career, not just to sit back and enjoy the benefits. That is not fair.
Sheikh, I have, You might find this question a bit funny, but it's quite common in certain cultures where even the son or the man would not marry without the permission of his mother, you know, or his father. It's almost like his parents are guardians of him as well. What would you say about this, you know?
Well, from a technical point of view, he doesn't need the consent of the guardian. Okay? He's responsible enough. But what kind of a person who would go and propose to a girl without taking his family with him, without having his parents with him? He's proud to have such parents. And as I said before so many times, it is not a man and a woman just getting married. It's merging two families. You know, and if a man proposes to my daughter and he's coming by himself, the first question I'm going to ask, so are your parents living? Oh yeah, they're cool. They're living, alhamdulillah. What are they? Well, I didn't tell them yet. Well, go and tell them. Inform them. They have a right upon you. You have to share with them the decision and also share with them making the decision. They gotta like my daughter. They're gonna see her. They're gonna help you making the decision. Subhanallah, we spoke about istishara, which is, you know, consulting people. So would you consult your colleagues, your friends, your cousins, and not consult your parents? Not introduce your parents to the future in-laws? That is not right. That is not right at all. Okay?
Yeah. So, you know, we spoke about, subhanAllah, you know, the legal preventions, you know, also the woman must get approval by the guardian. What other conditions are needed for the nikah?
The ijaban qabul. Now we're talking about the pillars of the marriage contract. The consent of the guardian, the witnesses, and ijaban qabul. Ijaban qabul, ijab means the proposal. You show interest in marrying by saying, would you marry me? But in this case, if you're proposing to a girl, you ask her guardian, I'm interested in marrying your daughter. The guardian have already asked the girl and she's interested. So he is speaking on her behalf. Yes, I will give you my daughter in marriage. Then the guy says, I accept. Okay? On what condition? على الصداق المسمى بيننا. We've agreed to a certain dowry. Now we'll discuss the dowry in a separate episode, inshallah, how much more or less, you know, and the value present and deferred. But now I'm talking about, so we agreed that we'll pay dowry. And we agreed to all kind of conditions and where is she gonna live, what kind of income you're making, and all of that. So beforehand, you have all of that in mind, and the guardian have done his homework, and he informed his daughter, and she's very happy and she's very convinced, and she says, Daddy, go ahead. So she gave him the green light. Without her giving him the green light, there is no marriage contract. That is called qabul. So ijab is the proposal. Qabul is the agreement or the acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay?
So, you know,
the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِذْنُهَا صُمَاتُهَا. You know, girls are, by nature, they're shy. I'm talking about Muslim girls. You know, maybe there are non-Muslim girls who are shy as well, but I'm talking about in Islam, a Muslim girl should feel shy. Okay? So, when the father asks her, somebody is asking for your hand, I checked out his background and or she already knows him. So she lowers her head. Not saying anything is a sign of consent. But if she's not interested, no, Daddy, no way. I don't like him. I don't want to marry that guy. He would be the last person in the world. Khalas, it's over. But you would not give your daughter in marriage or a girl who's under your guardianship in marriage without her consent. So the pillars of the aqd, ijab and qabul. Proposal and acceptance
from the girl as well.
From the girl.
Yeah. So there's
and
no
who
forced marriage in Islam.
Her? I'm sorry?
There's no forced marriage in Islam. This is a misconception that is often
of course not.
Promoted.
When we process the marriage contract, so who is sitting with the groom? The guardian. And he says, yeah, my daughter says yes. We'll go and check and ask her. She shows her ID. And yes, I'm interested in marrying him. Okay?
Yeah.
Or she's quiet. She doesn't say anything because she's shy. As the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِذْنُهَا صُمَاتُهَا, being quiet is a sign of approval. But to give her in marriage without her consent or without her knowledge or any of that, whether to your cousin or somebody whom you think he is the best of the best, no, that is not permissible.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. That's all we have time for today. And hopefully, inshallah, next episode we can pick up where we left off and carry on speaking about these details, inshallah.
Yeah, Allah bless you.
So for those of you at home, we ask you to keep following the series. I hope you're enjoying it, the Fiqh of Love. Join us next time for another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.